The last time we spoke about collective obligation was back in Season 16 when it first came out, and when we had the seasonal mod Volatile Flow, which allowed you very easy access to the volatile keyword of Void. The main criticisms I had with the weapon were that the 10-second lockout felt agonizing to watch as the timer slowly ticked down, and that volatile rounds felt like it was the only thing you really needed in most content because things died so easily. As soon as Season 17 rolled around, this weapon fell into the ether as Volatile Flow was gone, and we got new toys to play with in Solar 3.0. But Bungie has not given up on this raid exotic, not that it needed a ton of help, and it has received some substantial buffs. Void Leech used to be 10 seconds, it is now 15 seconds. That is a 50% increase in duration. There is no longer a cooldown on Void Leech. That 10-second lockout no longer exists. While Void Leech is active, the weapon deals 20% more damage in PvE to everything. Void Leech takes less time to charge, and if you kill something with a debuff on it, with the weapon, Void Leech instantly charges for that debuff. And if you happen to be affected by a Void debuff, Void Leech will instantly proc. No, you cannot suppress yourself. So Bungie just straight up eliminated one of the issues, quote unquote, that I had with the weapon, which was the cooldown, the lockout, whatever you want to call it. Then they gave it 50% increased duration on Void Leech, and then Bungie gave it another 20% bonus damage while it's active, and you can charge it much faster. All that being said, how much does this really do for the weapon in terms of ease of use, and how much does it do for a weapon that has no seasonal mod support? Let's investigate. I'm going to be taking the builds that I used in my previous video and seeing how things are now. Also, I'm not going to be including any seasonal mods in this video besides anti-champion mods. If you're watching this during Season of Plunder, then feel free to rotate in Sundering Glare, which can replace weakness, sort of. But otherwise, the mods will kind of be on a season-by-season basis. The biggest change Collective Obligation got was that it no longer has any sort of cooldown. What this means is that you are now able to chain this effect infinitely. For example, I throw a suppressor grenade at a target while I use Echo of Undermining, which will also weaken that target. I'm using Controlled Demolition on my Titan for quite literally the first time since Void 3.0 was introduced, meaning I also apply Volatile to a target when I hit them with an ability. I shoot the target a couple of times, and my weapon is instantly charged. I activate Void Leech, which lasts 15 seconds. Within the last couple of seconds, I find a target, apply all of the debuffs that I have, but don't kill it. When the timer runs out, I can leech all of those debuffs off of the target that I just shot, and then activate Void Leech again, continuing this chain until there is nothing left to kill. This is without an exotic armor piece, any armor mods, or anything else, really. It's just me on my Titan with one aspect, one fragment, and the gun. That's it. That's all I have on. And this quick initial test that I did before I started writing was in a legendary campaign mission, which is 15 levels above my current level. Warlocks have access to a similar experience: suppressor grenade, Echo of Undermining, and a melee that makes things volatile, along with Echo of Instability, giving you volatile rounds on grenade kills. Hunters also have a similar experience, minus the melee that provides volatile, it does weakness instead. Hunters only have their super to apply volatile, but they also have Echo of Instability, making volatile a little more annoying to make happen, but not really impossible. As a result of this just initial run of this weapon, I really don't have much else to say. I feel like the gameplay speaks for itself. This weapon is just really, really crazy now. And honestly, the video should just probably end right here, because I don't know what else to say about this gun. If Bungie wanted people to start using this gun as a result of these buffs, then I think they did a really good job of making that happen. It's hard to say anyone is sleeping on anything nowadays, since almost everything is near overpowered levels of good, but if it's been a while since you've broken out this weapon, or you're looking to dive back into Void builds, Collective Obligation is a weapon that you can easily throw into your arsenal, especially during seasons when it has an anti-champion mod in the seasonal artifact. I went back with a more complete build into some master campaign content around 10 to 15 levels above me, and it was pretty much more of the same when it came to killing average enemies. When it came to killing bigger targets, champions, stuff like that, the gameplay got a bit less exciting as I swapped to a linear fusion rifle to take them down. The utility of the weapon is incredibly powerful, but unfortunately it is still a primary weapon, and thus its champion damage isn't going to be that great, but it's certainly better than a lot of other primary weapons. Champions are also good targets to store some debuffs, as they aren't going to die very easily, but you will miss out on suppression because champions cannot be suppressed. When it comes to group content, communication is going to be, somewhat important because of people killing things before you're able to charge your gun. Fortunately, this is not completely a need-to-lead situation where your teammates need to let you do the bulk of the work for the build to be good, but it will still take a little bit of communication to make things go smoothly. Now let's talk about how to actually build around this weapon in particular. Exotics, fragments, aspects, all that. Gotta hit the 8-minute mark, you know what I mean. For Titans, last time I didn't even use an exotic because I didn't have the stats to do what I wanted to do, which was keep my grenade cooldown short and also use an exotic. I relied on my aspects to do my grenade regeneration for me. If you want to go that route, instead of using controlled demolition, you would just use Echo of Instability. But with subclass 3.0, Heart of Inmost Light has become the de facto Titan exotic for any sort of ability-based build. In this case, we can use Heart of Inmost Light to replace the Bastion aspect and then used controlled demolition instead. I opted to hang on to Offensive Bulwark since we'll be able to get overshields from our melee, and the main reason we used Bastion was to get overshields from barricades. This also gives us an additional fragment slot by switching to controlled demolition. However, Echo of Instability is a fragment that actually gives us stats, so it's not like we're even being punished for running it in the first place, and we need to make up for a weakness or a loss of stats somewhere else. The benefit of controlled demolition is that you don't need to kill something to make a target volatile, and you can hit it with a melee as well as a grenade, but if the target dies, then you're kind of out of luck. But again, since Echo of Instability isn't a penalty, it's actually kind of a benefit, it's not a big deal to run it in addition to Controlled Demolition. I'm personally running Controlled Demo because I just never run it, and I wanted to for literally the first time. Regarding Heart of Inmost Light, while there is going to be a decent amount of ability usage to make sure we have grenades ready to go on a moment's notice, this is more of a backup than the main part of our kit. Most of the time, you should be getting all of the debuffs to charge your weapon by simply shooting a debuffed enemy, that whole combo that I explained earlier. As a result, if you wanted to utilize Armamentarium instead, just to have a couple of extra grenades and not have to worry about Heart of Inmost Light style gameplay, that would not be a big deal at all. But the purpose of this build is to play around the weapon itself and the whole debuff rotation thing. It's not about ability spam like what subclass 3.0 has become. I just realized I never actually listed all of the fragments. So we have Undermining, we have Instability, and then the other two are kind of open for your personal preference. Considering we're using a Void weapon with a Void subclass, throwing in Harmonic Siphon mods into your helm to make Orbs of Power, and then running with Echo of Starvation for essentially free Devour isn't a terrible idea. Echo of Persistence can increase the duration of both Devour and your overshields that you'll make from your melees. Not a bad setup at all. Warlocks, we have a couple of ways of playing this. We could lean heavily into Echo of Instability and Undermining, Chaos Accelerant, and Controverse Hold, and just go really hard for grenade kills to give your weapon volatile and weaken everything. But as I just mentioned, we aren't going to need constant grenade spam to make this build work. Not to mention, we're losing out on suppression by not running Suppressor Grenade. We could lean into heavy melee energy gains and just throw a ton of melees at target to simply leech the volatile effect from our melee for the weapon, and then get suppress and weaken from our grenade and Echo of Undermining. Maybe even going like Claws of Ahamkara to stack up on multiple melees, and then you just tack on a bunch of well mods for energy gains. I think more people would be interested in Chaos Accelerant and Controverse because it results in more interesting gameplay, but I also feel like if you're going to go that route, you might get distracted with all of the grenade spam instead of, using the gun. I went with Verity's Brow again because I want to put all of my attention into my gun usage. This helm gives passive grenade regeneration as you're killing things, makes your grenade deal a lot of extra damage for bigger targets, which can activate volatile rounds on your gun with Echo of Instability. Volatile can be a little annoying to activate because the only other way to get volatile is from your melee, which is relatively short range. Of course, you miss out on the suppression effect when you kill with a suppressor grenade, so it does take a little bit of planning. Considering where this build is going to have a lot of success though, which is at or slightly above level content, enemies are a little more resilient to grenades. If you really want to run with another exotic that's more of a background exotic like the Stag, Ophidian, I'm sure half of you are screaming Nezarec Sin at me as well, those are all fine, with Nezarec's probably being a bit more fine than the others. When it comes to aspects for the Warlock, Child of the Old Gods feels like enough to siphon the weaken effect if you want to pass on using Echo of Undermining, but if you want Devour with Chaos Accelerant, then you need to keep undermining. I think something I've been trying to push maybe a little too heavily is having all 3 debuffs, but if you've found that you can live without having a certain debuff, it's fine to skip it if you're going to have a better time with build crafting or just gameplay in general. Hunters will struggle a little bit more. Again, like I mentioned in the previous video, volatile flow is gone, and the one big advantage you had, which was class ability usage, is now not really that important, or not as important anyway. I think having access to Devour is still going to be important to the success of using this weapon on a hunter, just to have access to grenades on a not ridiculous cooldown, unless you're really stacking discipline. Whenever Gear Falcon's Hauberk becomes available to use again, which is apparently going to be the middle of October, you technically will have another outlet to proc Volatile, although it does take a bit more setup than just killing with a grenade for Echo of Instability. Stylish Executioner is a pretty obvious pick here to combo with Hauberk, just going in and out of Invis and getting that damage buff. Outside of that though, hunters are generally more melee-centric, and smoke bombs only give weakness, which you can get from a fragment for your grenade. However, the big benefit that you're getting from Hauberk is the massive damage boost you get after emerging from invisibility, on top of the 20% bonus damage that this weapon is getting from Void Leech. You could also go for the Bombardiers, which drops a bomb after you dodge that will suppress targets that it hits for your suppression needs. I think that's a bit to invest into when Suppressor Grenade exists, and you're likely going to spec into Devour. In the previous video, I mentioned that Hunter gameplay will take a bit of getting used to because of all the things you had to keep track of: invisibility, orbs of power, grenade usage. But with the ability to now continuously chain the leech effect without having to refresh everything every single time, hunters shouldn't have to worry as much as they did before, which is great news. In terms of mod loadouts, I kept it simple by boosting the power of Collective Obligation via Font of Might. When I have a weapon-based build that I'm working with, I want to keep it that way. I just find it's simpler to focus my efforts on using the weapon versus trying to split my attention. Elemental Armaments and or Ordnance, Font of Might, even Font of Wisdom if your intellect is really low, Reaping Wellmaker, Well of Tenacity maybe, Seeking Wells, pretty much any combination of these mods is going to work out just fine. Make wells, boost weapon damage, maybe take a little less damage here and there, boost my super gains, that's it. Keep it nice and simple. I don't think it's worth trying to build into 2 types of builds at the same time, because you're just going to stress yourself out trying to make sure you can activate every single one of these things. Keep it simple. I think that's quite literally everything I have to say about Collective Obligation. Despite this weapon getting buffed an insane amount, it's actually amazing how much it'll pale still in comparison to most ability spam builds in most pieces of content. I think Collective Obligation will continue to thrive in mid and end game level content, dragging these debuffs with you everywhere you go to easily clear out enemies. But sadly, in lower level stuff, even this can be too much setup for some people versus just chucking a couple of grenades and calling it a day. For people who like to use guns though, give this one another try. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.